is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Monday, 16th April 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is News to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Global leaders are on the edge as Iran launched an attack of 300 drones against Israel over the weekend. U.S. President Joe Biden praised American forces, whom he said helped Israel take down nearly all the drones and missiles launched by Iran on Sunday. In a statement, he said the U.S. has moved aircraft and warship to the region before the unprecedented attack. Biden said in a statement, "I condemn these attacks in the strongest possible terms." Israel said Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles in its direction, the first time it has attacked Israel directly from its own territory. Back at home, Faizabad MP Dr. Lakram Bodo has, as the Shadow Minister of Health, yesterday called for the resignation of Health Minister Terence Dialsingh following the deaths of 7 babies at the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit NICU of the Port of Spain General Hospital. At the UNC's weekly media briefing yesterday, Bodo said obstetricians and said Dialsingh takes credit for the good work at the neonatal clinics, so he should also take the responsibility of how something this drastic could have gone wrong. Bodo says as calls for Dialsingh's resignation coming one day after the president of the TNT Registered Nurses Association, Edie Stewart, said heads must roll for the infant deaths. In Parliament on Friday, Dialsingh apologized to the parents of the 7 babies who died at the neonatal unit of sepsis at the NICU between April 4th and 7th. Meanwhile, the Northwest Regional Health Authority may be facing several lawsuits in relation to the deaths of 7 babies earlier this month. Freedom Law Chambers, led by Ananam Logan, SC, delivered a pre-action protocol letter to the NWRH's Chief Executive Officer yesterday, representing the parents of the 7 deceased babies, including Shania Raymond Adams, Natasha Samuel, Shaquille Harry, Danielle Samaru, Tennille Saunders, Jody Molino, and Cherise Moore-Beckles. The 7 babies died as a result of a bacterial outbreak at the Port of Spain General Hospital early in the month, and the parents are pursuing a legal lawsuit for medical negligence. The board of Massi Group has issued a statement on its independent investigations into allegations contained in a statement from Mrs. Angelique Paso-Potter to Massi Holdings dated 12 November 2023. The official statement from Massi indicated that the overwhelming majority of allegations contained in Mrs. Paso-Potter's statement have not been made out. The statement also said the evidence does not establish that Mrs. Paso-Potter had any valid basis for expecting that she would, or for insisting she should remain employed at Massi after the age of 60 and until 58. The statement also indicated that Mrs. Paso-Potter proposed a settlement package to be paid to her in the sum of 11.8 million British pounds and a seat on the board of Massi Holdings Limited. Meanwhile, Paso-Potter has described the statement from Massi Holdings as nonsense, as she did not think it was appropriate for her to put forward any offer or proposal, as her exit was instigated by former group CEO Gervais Warner. In her view, she said her exit from the company stemmed from 3 factors: asking probing questions of executives, challenges to the Delphi executive program, and conflicts of interest, which she had flagged in her report. Going back to news outside this country, the White House warns Israel the U.S. will not participate in any retaliatory strikes on Iran. Over 300 drones and missiles were fired at Israel on Sunday, which Iran said in a response to an April 1st strike on its consulate in Syria. Almost all the weapons were shot down by Israeli U.S. forces before they reached their targets. And finally, in an item of sport, TNT's Red Force secured a 123-run win over the combined campuses and colleges on the 4th and final day of the West Indies Championship match at UA Spec in St. Augustine on Saturday. Set for 49 to win, CCC resumed playing 61-1 and was eventually dismissed for 325. They got great scores from Daniel Evelyn, 73, Shamabrook, 62, Demario Richards, 66 not out. Brian Charles had 4 wickets for 46 runs, and Carrie Pierre took 3 for 90 from 40 overs. The Red Force will next play Jamaica in their final round match at the Jamaica Scorpions, which starts on Wednesday at Sabina Park. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
the hour at 6 o'clock on Monday. Yeah, it's Monday, the middle of the month, the 15th day of April. So good morning to you. Of course, full cast in the Power Breakfast Show this morning. We just heard from Super Paul, Senator Dr. Paul Richards. We'll hear from Wendell Stephen, Richard Ragoobarsingh. We'll be running late. We've got Ruben and Shane in the mix. And of course, my name is Steve Khan. Quickly taking a look at what's happening traffic-wise. You got some by Chase Village, Charlieville towards the interchange, heavy from Maloney to Piarco, then Trin City UE, passing the interchange, getting to Port of Spain, a bit of volume. Santa Rosa to O'Meara, you've got some volume there, and it's beginning to build in Maraval on the saddle coming out from Mocha. 24 degrees with some light rain out at Piarco, 26 at Crown Point in Tobago. And before I say hellos, let me say good morning going out to Super Paul.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, my friend. How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm fine, thank you. And your good self?
Busy as usual. Busy as usual. It's the only time I get to do some stuff really is on a Sunday. So it's always a hectic Sunday. Always. All right. Let's see who sent us hellos first thing this morning via Facebook and YouTube. Edwin Marshall, good morning to you. John Cato. Mo Gaines out in Aruca, good morning. Godzilla in Valencia. Oliver Man Warren. Massi Rock out in Orlando, Florida. D. Pierre, good morning to you. Wendy and James Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Wayne B. in Covington, Georgia. Rita Boodoo Jennings. Carol Joseph. Maria Celia. Ewart Rajpal. Nikisha Pierre. Gloria Gray. Nasa Muhammad. Said lots of rain since last night. Where? Heard a well. CJ in New York. Special good morning to you. CJ popped into the Pet Butler on Friday to say hello. So nice meeting you, CJ. Enjoy your trip as you head back out this week. Slick Money Grip. Brent Hackshaw. Good morning. Josie Richardson. Carol Guevara. Good morning to you. On WhatsApp at 318-1021. Good morning to you, Dan Raj. Good morning to you, Sunny. Let's see. Who is this? Is this Val? Yes, it is Val. Good morning to you, Val. Sankofa, GNC Auto Security. Good morning to you guys as well via WhatsApp at 318-1021. Wendell Stephen, good morning to you, my friend. I see you're back.
Yeah, morning, Steve. Morning, Paul. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's Monday, April
6th.
15th?
15, sorry.
15. Yep. Yeah, it's the birthday of my very good friend whom we had a surprise for yesterday, Paul Leacock, former councillor, former chairman of Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. He and his twin sister, Paula, so Paul and Paula. I always thought, Paul, you have a sister named Paula too, don't you?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Right. I always thought so. Because I made an error yesterday when I was doing my greetings, and I greeted Mrs. Richards, and I said, shh, because I'm thinking Paul.
But people have called me Paula so many times in my life. It doesn't matter.
But he is Paul and Paula.
Secondary school goes.
Yeah, well, they call me Wendy too. Don't worry. Don't feel so bad about it.
Doesn't matter to me.
But yeah, it don't matter to me either. Paul and Paula, they're celebrating their 50th birthday today. Happy birthday to Paul and Paula. We had a nice surprise for yesterday.
And should we also say good morning to St. Augustine MP Khadija Amin?
Yeah, let's say good morning to her.
Yeah, morning, Khadija.
I see the only newspaper reported the posts that was circulating yesterday, which suggested that Miss Amin may have been in some difficulty. Is the Guardian, which is saying St. Augustine, the headline is St. Augustine MP okay after hostage scare. I'll just read the article because there were a lot of I got a lot of forwards from people who would have the general thrust of it is that Miss Amin may have been held against her will in a car by someone who she apparently knew. She called a friend according to what the thing was saying, and the friend called the police and made a report.
Right.
Amin subsequently put out a post on social media, and this is what the post said. My friends, I understand there are some rumors circulating. I want to thank everyone for their concern. I'm safe and I'm good. Now, the original thing stems from the post, which said that around 2:22 a.m. yesterday, PC Singh of the Valencia police station was stopped while on mobile patrol and was told that Amin was being held against her will somewhere in Macoya Extension to Napuna. PC Singh contacted another officer, which triggered an immediate operation in the Northern Division, included at least 2 units of the high performance team on the Northern Division Task Force. Police said Corporal Jai Karan had a brief conversation with Amin, who gave certain information before his cell phone went dead. At around 2:35 a.m., officers from the North Central Division Task Force, led by Corporal Prasad, stopped a black Toyota RAV4 driven by Amin. The police report did not say where the vehicle was stopped. The MP was briefly assessed and found to be safe. She was then escorted to the Tunapuna police station, where she gave further information. Contacted for comment yesterday. Amin said that she was okay and she'd been advised against speaking further on the issue.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me give me a couple seconds to relate what happened with me. There's no secret that Khadija, Amin, and myself are friends. We are friends so much that I consider her family, because she has attended many family gatherings at our home with the entire family and even personally by me. So Khadija and I are friends, if not family. So when I got the first message yesterday, early, I got it quite early, I sent it to her and I asked her, is everything okay? And she did respond to me. I told her that I gave her the assurance that I will not share it, because I had only gotten it once at that point in time. I said I would not share it. She said, well, it done gone viral. I said, okay, but is everything okay with you though? And she responded, yes, I'm safe, but I've been advised not to comment. So, but then I started getting it from everybody and all different versions of it. And I said, wow, okay. But it pointed to, in some instances, a case of domestic violence, if I have to read between the lines in what some of the messages were saying. And that's not a good thing, a nice thing for anybody to encounter. And I hope that everything is well with Khadija. And as I said, I never shared the message that I got, and I have no intention of sharing it. But I got it from several people. You understand? And I just hope that she is all right and gets over whatever she's going through. You know what I mean?
I'm glad she's all right. She's a good person.
Yeah. Khadija and I go way, 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 way back. You know? So
yeah. So
I hope everything is
I'm glad she's all right, because she's a good person. Like a great mother, and she has a son, you know.
Yeah.
I would hate for anything happened to Khadija. So I'm glad that she posted that she was all right, because like you, I got several different iterations, updates of it. Mm-hmm. I even got a picture of the alleged perpetrator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I got that too.
And their family associations, and you know, people. I mean, journalists go crazy. And so on, but she put out a statement saying she's okay, and that kind of comforted me.
Yeah. I'm happy that everything is okay.
Yeah.
Because nobody deserves to go through anything like that, regardless of the politics or whatever station in life. You know what I mean? Nobody deserves.
That has nothing to do with it. If someone was violent toward her, and I'm not even saying it's a domestic situation. I'm saying if someone was violent against her, and including keeping her against her will, that's a very serious thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the police responded very quickly. Commendations to the police also.
Yeah.
For responding so quickly, and that she's okay.
Yeah.
I guess when she's ready, she'll make a further statement if she wants to do that.
Yeah. But she did say yesterday she was advised not to comment.
Yeah. The other big issue that continued over the weekend, which is after the brutal killing of that young 4-year-old, is the information about the 7 babies who died at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Mm-hmm. And 7 babies from bacterial infection, apparently, that if you are to believe the information coming out of the media, came into the neonatal unit from a child transferred from a private hospital who had the infection. And it seemed to have spread to other babies. I mean, 7 babies dying in a period of about 4 or 5 days is really bad in hospital. And now the families, the parents, have retained the services of Senior Counsel Anand Logan, and he says he's going to set a precedent by filing a class action lawsuit. Now, I'm not sure, but my understanding is that class action lawsuits are a feature of North American law, not necessarily our legal system, but he's the kind of lawyer who could break the mold. But all a class action lawsuit means is that they're filing together, and cases can be filed together, you know? How they describe it is something else. But I mean, what struck me as poor about this case, and not laying any blame here because an investigation is underway, is that it's only when the media broke this story the Ministry of Health made a statement.
And you know, that's the same thing I said.
You understand?
Only then.
Something as significant as that, even if an investigation is ongoing, 7 babies, or according to some reports, at least 7 babies dying within a 5-day period is a significant development in any country. At one hospital. One would have thought the ministry thought this wouldn't come out. You be proactive with your communication. You send your condolences, your deepest condolences, to the parents first and foremost, and indicate that this tragedy has happened. You state your initial findings, and you said a full investigation is ongoing, and more will be revealed when the investigation is complete. You can't let the media break this story. And you see, the thing about it is that, according to a friend of mine who works in the hospital, until information came to the media, the parents may not have necessarily known other babies died that were connected to this, because they're all in individual situations. You understand? The only entity that would know how serious this is the hospital, the Northwest Regional Health Authority, and the Ministry of Health. And why a statement wasn't made before is bewildering to me. Bewildering. It is not in the interest of transparency. And I know you may not be able to say a lot because it's a sensitive situation. You are managing grieving parents and hospital staff, because the hospital staff in many cases will be traumatized too. You're trying to save other babies from being infected. But come on. I don't know. Like, the state have a communication problem?
Clearly it does. Who's the corporate at Ministry of Health?
I don't know. Each RHA has a different corp.
We'll have a different corp.
Who is the chair of Northwest? They told me, but I want to confirm. And if it is the lady, I don't know. Trouble seems to be following the goodly lady.
I don't know either,
I think let me just confirm.
I know the CEO of Mount Hope is Davlin. Did it happen at Mount Hope?
No.
Spain.
It's Port of Spain.
It's Port of Spain. Okay. Yeah. But I don't know.
Which is the head is I believe is Miss Agard.
Yeah, I think it's Miss Agard, but I just want to confirm before I say that.
Miss Agard.
Oh?
That's why I said trouble may be falling. It's Lisa Agard.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Trouble may be falling, the goodly lady.
Yeah.
It is Miss Agard. Yeah.
Oh.
She's been a chair for a while.
Yeah, she's been there
for
a while.
While she was the head of TSTT.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I wasn't aware at all.
But I'm surprised that the NWRHA or the ministry and Minister of Health did not make a statement on this before. Now, yes, some would say it's only 15th of the month. The story broke last week, but this seemingly happened in the first week of the
exactly
month. So
they had enough time.
Like that, you should have made a statement, and then
it happened on Easter weekend. Then
afraid to break in the press, and then questions posed in the Parliament on Friday, as it would be and should be. It is
I
unfortunate.
feel, I feel for those parents. I really do.
Everybody feels the parents. Speaking of which, our first
Because
guest is online.
yeah, Edie Stewart is our guest, because the last cremation I went to at Caroni a couple of weeks ago, there was a pira, and it was extremely small, and it was a cremation for a 1-day-old baby, and that broke everyone's heart as they carried her to the pira to be cremated.
Morning, Edie.
Morning, Edie Stewart.
A pleasant morning to the team, and pleasant morning to your listeners.
Thank you for joining us this early. We appreciate you being with us. We're just relaying the concerns about the situation regarding the 7 babies at Port of Spain General Hospital. Can you give us an overview and or update, please, from where you sit?
From the association standpoint, look, we also want to extend our thoughts and prayers to the relatives of those 7 babies. And also we would want to sympathize because we know the medical and nursing staff are also going through some psychological distress themselves. They are some of the most committed and emotionally involved persons. When you're dealing with babies, you could understand you getting attached to those babies. So those neonatal nurses and pediatric nurses are some of the most caring nurses we have. So we know they are going through some psychological distress right now. So our thoughts are with them. Now the association must appreciate that nosocomial infections are unfortunately commonplace within hospital settings. These hospital-acquired infections, this is not something unique to Trinidad and Tobago. It's something that hospitals throughout the world, constantly battle with. The resulting morbidity or mortality, the resulting deaths from nosocomial infection is also not unheard of. It's not unusual. The unusual thing in this case is that it took 7 babies to rapidly deteriorate, leading to death over that short period of 4 days. That has really caught the nation and also the international community, because if one only was to search this particular story, it's on the news of nearly every major media house. So this is a development that the world over is really paying attention, and how we treat with this situation going forward, I am supposing would also be followed up internationally. So we must be mindful how we deal with this situation. So 7 babies dying so soon, one after the other, is really a cause of concern. And we would really want to know, following this investigation being done internally by the Northwest Regional Health Authority and the Ministry of Health, and also externally by the parties named by the Ministry of Health, we would really want to know, understand the sequence of events that would have led to this. Now, the association is aware of certain information, and we expect it to come out within the investigation, which we understand would have transpired that caused this scenario. So we would wait until the findings of the investigation, but we are aware of certain information.
What would be normal protocol, Didi? I'm presuming that from one of the newspaper reports I read, that a baby, a neonate, may have been brought from a private institution carrying the infection into Port of Spain. I can't confirm that because it has not been confirmed. But in any case, if that is the way the bacterial infection got in, or even through another method, another modus, it would mean that one baby came in with showing symptoms of being infected. Another baby would show symptoms. Would it be normal for it to happen in quick cascade? Would those things happen in quick succession in a neonatal unit area? Because there's not a large area, it's one section, the hospital.
There's a neonatal transfer policy which only came out in 2020, identifying that exact scenario you are speaking about. So if that, and I read the article also, if that is proven to be true, then there was a severe shortcoming and non-adherence to that very policy. That only came out in 2022, spurred on by SARS-CoV-2 virus. And the hospital, the Port of Spain General Hospital, if they had followed those guidelines, then they ought to have isolated that baby which came in from another institution. And
what about if the baby wasn't symptomatic at the time?
It matters not. You were supposed to isolate that baby prior to introducing it to the rest of the environment to prevent exactly what has transpired. A matter of fact, even if it came from another institution, it came from home, and it did not utilize the approved methods of transfer, of interfacility transfer. If it used a private vehicle, you are supposed to quarantine that baby, as it will, isolate that baby in another room before you introduce it in.
Who's responsible for ensuring that that protocol is executed?
There are so many difficulties with this, because we would place the onus on the medical chief of staff to ensure that this is done. The medical chief of staff is ultimately responsible for clinical issues like these, especially transferring of babies. The medical chief of staff would have been informed and ought to have ensured this scenario does not occur, and if this is proven to be true. Persons ought to also know we are very short. In fact, we probably only have 2 or possibly 3 neonatal consultants in Trinidad and Tobago. So that very department which we are speaking about, we actually do not have the requisite number of specialist neonatologists in Trinidad and Tobago to manage that ward, and we actually have to utilize one doctor to do consultation throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So the same neonatologist, and I suspect it's Dr. Marlon Timothy, has to consult at Port of Spain General Hospital, has to consult at San Fernando General Hospital, has to consult at San Fernando General Hospital. So we are very short in that dynamic. So there's a number of factors at play. If you don't have...
Edie, who would have had the responsibility of informing the medical chief of staff that a baby is being transferred? Who would have had that responsibility?
Well, it would have been the consultant, but again, that consultant is not only attached to the Port of Spain General Hospital. That consultant, in fact, he only comes there 2 days per week to do his consultation. So we really and truly can't blame the consultant if he's not there on a full-time basis. It would really be inappropriate for us. But
there are several people in the chat asking about there are several people in the chat asking about the responsibility of the nurses on duty and what their role should be in a situation like this.
Because I was going to get there, Paul, in that I was trying to find out, because you said we can't blame the consultant. Fine, I accept that. We can't blame, well, you said that the ultimate responsibility is the medical chief of staff, but then the medical chief of staff was not actually there, I'm guessing. So the person who that they would have interacted with in a case like that would have been the nurses on duty at the point in time. what would have been the responsibility of the nurses on duty at that point in time when that baby came to the hospital? If we are agreeing that this is the scenario that played out.
Well, even before we reach the nurses, and I will deal with the nurses comprehensively, the policy dictates when any neonate is transferred from institution to institution, the physician of the sending institution is the one to hand over to the physician of the incoming institution. So if the information is true in the article, then the physician should have accompanied that baby in an ambulance, hand over all of the information to another physician in Port of Spain maternity block. And that physician, whoever took over that baby, ought to be the one to inform the medical chief of staff. In fact, even before the baby actually reaches the institution, that physician would have received all of the information from the baby in any event. So it ought not to be a surprise showing up on the doorsteps of Port of Spain Maternity Hospital with this infection, and you are now going to scramble to try to treat this baby. Let me also say, within the health sector, you cannot refuse admission of any patient whatsoever. Right. So all patients must be treated. So they just have to have the protocols to be able to treat it.
Right. But Edie, let's assume that the physician or the transferring agency didn't know about anything about an infection. There is still a protocol in place.
Correct.
Right.
And
So forget the infection for the time being. The protocol is that the baby comes and that the baby is isolated. Who would be responsible for that isolation at the point in time that the baby reaches the hospital?
Well, again, the doctors who are on the ward will ensure they are placed in the relevant isolation room. Whether or not we have enough space to do that, as persons will know, while there's massive reconstruction for the central block, the maternity hospital is a standalone facility, and it's one of the oldest facilities. In fact, the remaining of the building really is unfit to be treating mothers and babies at this time, in my opinion, and in many others' persons' opinion. The neonatology section, which is on the ground floor, was refurbished, but the remaining of the building is totally inadequate. And even that section still leaves a lot to be desired. So, and from the information we have, that building would remain there. It is not that it's going to be incorporated into the new central block. So that's another issue. But again, when we come to the nurses now, and this is why we will be issuing our press statement on this matter, because one of the fundamental things we are seeing is that because more and more senior nurses are leaving, we have more and more junior nurses who may not have the experience, may not have the confidence to challenge some of the actions of doctors. You really build up that confidence over time to really be able to challenge a doctor respectfully and let them know, look, you are breaking protocol and you ought not to do this. So we want to re-engender that spirit of confidence within the nurse to say, look, you can stand your ground. We understand nurses may be apprehensive about this because we have several instances where nurses are disciplined if they do not follow the instructions of medical staff. We have several incidents. In fact, I was a victim of that when I stood my ground against the medical chief of staff at the time in St. Anne's Hospital about an admission that was breaking protocol. And surely enough, within a matter of hours, my nursing administrator disciplined me and actually transferred me.
So let's presume the nurses were reluctant to challenge if a protocol was broken, because we don't have that information yet.
Yeah.
What will be the nurse's responsibility? Because I'm sure the nurses are the ones on the floor monitoring the neonates, right?
Yeah.
And they would certainly be taking their temperatures, looking at their general physical condition, seeing if anything seems off with these babies. What would be the process in terms of those vital statistics, vitals from the babies, moving to the attending consultant and up the chain if one baby is showing symptoms of a bacterial infection, 2, 3, over a 4 or 5 day period? And what sort of alarm bell should be set off under those circumstances?
Well, there are standard protocols, and whether or not the baby has an infection or showing signs and symptoms at the present time, there are standard reporting responsibilities for the nurses, an ongoing mechanism where you constantly check for signs of infections, the fever, the high temperatures. So if the baby is performing the duties of that particular child's age, because we must remember all of these are preemie babies, they are not full-term babies. And from the information put out by the Northwest Regional Health Authority, the baby was less than 32 weeks. The viability age in Trinidad and Tobago is 28 weeks. Internationally, it's 26 weeks. So you would be meeting certain targets at particular levels, and if you are falling short on those targets, then the intervention of the team. But again, ICU, and this is an ICU for neonates. It is constant monitoring. So we highly doubt there will be a shortcoming in the constant monitoring of all of these babies, and that is why it's so alarming that one would have.
But 7 and 5 days means that more than one baby would be showing symptoms on a continuous basis. At what point should the authorities or those in charge realize this is a bacterial outbreak? Because it seems to be moving from one neonate to another, who are by nature, by definition, vulnerable.
Yes. So once the babies, so if you bring in an infected baby, as we say, just assuming, and that baby is not quarantined, the layout of the facility, and it is overcrowded. When we speak about overcrowded, each cot or each incubator or each bed, as it will, is not the required 7 feet apart from each other. And you don't have the required number of nursing staff, something again the association has been bringing to the fore in the public domain. And each nurse now is required to see about not one baby as the protocol dictates, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 babies at the same time, which we suspect happen. Then you have a higher chance, a higher probability of the infection moving.
Is that what was happening? From your information, is that what was happening? Is it that the cots weren't 7 feet apart, as is international best practice? Is it that more than one baby was being attended to by one nurse? Can we confirm that from your information?
We would want the investigation to deal with those matters, but from our limited information, and this is third-hand information, we understand that is what transpired. And it only takes the baby to become infected, and then that's it. Your battle now has just gotten 100 times worse. And now, even when you discover the baby has been infected, it is already too late, especially for these preterm babies, and that's the issue. And Northwest would have put out that there were other babies who were able to be discharged, who weren't infected, and they were sent home or placed on other wards or discharged to another institution. So it demonstrates that it was isolated in a particular area, and one could sadly appreciate some of the circumstances that would have led to that. Yeah.
Is it possible for the bacteria then to be spread based on what may have occurred, that one nurse was attending to more than one baby? Is it possible that the bacteria could be spread by the adult person moving from one baby to the next?
Yes, it is possible. As we don't know what transpired in this situation, and we may never know. But there are certain, when you watch the literature internationally, they would identify these things. You having more than one nurse between babies, highly likely there. And if the cuts are too close together, you could end up with just brushing up against one cut. You go to do something else and you brush up against another cut, and something simple as that could cross-contaminate. But then there's the larger possibility where the medical staff, the doctors, inserting the IV access into these babies, because they spoke about a blood-borne infection, and that is another area where the infection can be spread if the doctors are not washing their hands and not doing the needful. That is another higher likely chance of where this infection could be spread. Because the issue of shortage of nursing staff and the spacing of cuts is an internationally identified cause, a risk factor. But even a bigger risk factor is doctors inserting some of their any invasive device, whether it's the tracks to assist the babies to breathe, the ventilation, whether it's the IV access, whether it's the subclavian IV access, what have you. It is a high chance, a high possibility that the infection can be transferred in that manner.
A quick question. The area where the babies are, is it CCTV monitored?
I know the external areas are monitored. I'm not sure about the actual unit inside of the actual units where the babies are, and I doubt it.
Why? Why not though?
Because of patients' privacy. Even though they are babies, I guess they would still have some privacy issues, and it would be. I'm not sure, but I know there. And persons entering and exiting the department itself, there are cameras there. But I am not sure about the inside of the ward, because I'm the only other area in Trinidad and Tobago where you actually have cameras on the ward itself would be St. Anne's Hospital, for obvious reasons.
But I would think a ward with babies, for obvious reasons, should have CCTV cameras.
Yeah, but
that's my thinking.
But you have the department. For you to leave the department, you will have the cameras there. So, so just in case somebody is leaving with a baby, you would see who is coming in and going out. For the actual ward, I'm not too sure. I could be wrong, but I'm not too sure.
We run out of time, Edie. Is it to your memory, your recollection? Is this the most number of neonates or babies to die in such a short space of time? Is this unprecedented?
Yes. This is the first from my memory. There have been instances over the years in San Fernando General Hospital, in Mount Hope Women's. So two of the larger hospitals also have faced this issue. So it's not a new issue. In fact, research was done in San Fernando and in Mount Hope Women's. And on both occasions, they identified something simple as hand washing techniques would have fallen down, basic precautions were not followed. And also the research that was done in San Fernando highlighted the shortage of nursing staff to be an issue. And that research was done in 2001. And it highlighted that issue and encouraged departments to be properly staffed to prevent this scenario. So it seems that we have not learned anything in the 23 years since that particular research came out, and we are still in the same position. We know the Health Ministry and the RHA would put out their releases. Unfortunately, it would not be a truly independent investigation because we just don't have that institution set up in Trinidad and Tobago. It's another thing that the association has been calling for over the years, to have that health sector accreditation council to come in and review institutions on an ongoing basis and not wait for when a tragedy happens and you are now have a jerk reaction. So hopefully this scenario would be the catalyst for the Ministry of Health to start looking at that health sector accreditation council. Yes.
Thanks a lot.
That would be fair. Yeah.
We appreciate you being with us this morning.
Yeah. Thank you so much, JD.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. All the best to you. All right.
So, Edie Stewart, president of the Nurses Association of Trinidad and Tobago. All right, time to roll into our news headlines. I'm presuming Wendell does not have newspapers.
Nope, I don't.
Yeah. Let's start with the Express. It's Monday, the 15th of April, 2024. TNT needs gun and gang court. It's a picture of Senior Counsel Hill and Sebran Suite. We've spoken about this so many times in this country, so I don't know. Anyway, TNT needs gun and gang court. This is the Express. Minister must go. The opposition is demanding an independent probe into the deaths of 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Fire trauma for families. TTRA top positions filled. Can expands to 8 branches. That's the commercial entity. And of course, the big new international news over the weekend is the unfortunate development that Iran fired 300 drones at Israel. Fortunately, they were all intercepted by Israeli and American forces. Let's move to the Guardian online for today.
I can help you with the Guardian if you want.
Go ahead, thanks.
All right. Today, of course, is Monday, April 15th, and the headline in today's Guardian reads, I was forced out. An exclusive with Angelique Parisot-Potter, former Massi executive, alleges she was verbally abused, says executive trainers claim they could cure cancer. That story is on page 5. And on page 6 of today's Guardian, Gonzalez, that's Minister Marvin Gonzalez, apologizes for water truck racket. Also on page 15, truce brokered between Bishop Harvey and the priest, and that's a bacchanal that brewed, I think it's in Grenada, where a priest had some issues with Bishop Clive Harvey. All right. Also on the inside, wheelchairs donated to 200 disabled persons. Angelique's allegations. Gonzalez apologizes. Security officer dies in crash. St. Augustine MP okay after hostage scare. And Faizabad MP calls for Dayal-Singh's resignation after deaths of babies. All of those are stories trending in today's Guardian. Of course, I don't see a chance to purge UNC of dissidents. That's also an article in today's papers. And I don't know if we touched on the Dinesh Rambali thing. Maybe we should do that the 7th, certainly. Newsday.
I say yes, do it. Yeah. I don't. Done so.
All right, let's get in Newsday, gentlemen.
Calm down, Steve. We got to take 6 seconds for a joke.
Exactly. 6 seconds.
But if you wanted to do your shout-outs, you're going to take it. Newsday. Legal threat over 7 babies' deaths. Tobago woman loses baby miracle. NWRHA CEO promises transparency in investigation into babies' deaths. Gonzalez alleges political discrimination in Mondiabo water racket. UNC wants external investigation into babies' deaths, calls for Dayal-Singh to resign. Mark, Revenue Authority will become party group for the PNM. Mark, which government minister was involved in Brent Thomas debacle? And those are trending stories in your Guardian, Express, and Newsday for today.
The UNC trying to fight back with their own bacchanal. We're not going to leave Dinesh Rambali bacchanal.
You want Steve to buff you out. Calm yourself.
Yes, Steve.
Let's get the results of our morning poll from Friday. Friday, we asked you, do you think the tenure of Commissioner of Police Earl Hayward Christopher will be extended? That was our poll on Friday. The results are in. 60%, 60, said no.
So my
All right.
suggestion comes from, I was going to propose a question about the resignation of the minister, but in the absence of a full investigation, is that the question? You understand? Because there's no report from an investigation. The two questions then following that should be one: should there be an independent investigation, or do you think anyone will be held accountable?
That's the better question.
Accountable.
Okay.
Yeah. The second one is the better question. Do you think anyone will be held accountable in the deaths of the 7 babies at Port of Spain Hospital?
Yeah. All right. So 222-8255, toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 318-1021. All right. Good morning to anyhow Miguel, Cheryl Henry, Ambrose Blood, DL, Michael Gradison. Good morning to you, Lando, J97. Slick Money Brick, Kazim Mohammed. Good morning to you, Randy Kelly, Lester Craigwell. Mrs. R is locked on. Good morning to you all. All right. There's our poll question on your screen. I'll tell you. Do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital? Yes or no is what we want. That's all you got to do. Say your name, where you are, and yes or no. Okay? Let's see.
We have some votes there already.
Yeah, I'm getting them here. I'm getting Jaron Joseph. Morning to Jaron. He says no one. Let's see. Anyhow, Miguel says yes. Lennon Robert says no. John Cato says no. Josie Richardson says no. What says you, caller?
Grandy, no. We have rain in Santa Grande, Steve.
All over. It's a beautiful morning.
Plans for dancing up a storm. Thank you, Grandy. Sunny San Fernando says no to the poll. Lester Craigwell says no. Julia Espati says no. Anyhow, Miguel says yes. Gregory Bauer says no. Kazim Mohammed says no. Slick Money Grip says no. DL says no. CJ in Trini, no to the poll. Vaughn Drayton says no. Cheryl Henry says no. Let's see. Brian from St. Joseph. Good morning to you, Brian. Says no. Trevor in Arima. Morning, Trev says no. Right. Our poll question this morning: do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of the 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital? All right.
FYI, Steve and Wendell and everyone. I have to log off at 7 for an interview on another station for about 15 minutes, and I'll be back. Okay. Righty-o, Super Paul, man in demand. Sexy San Fernando says no to the poll. Cheryl, I did that. Carol Guevara, morning, Carol. Sadly, no. Royalty Forever, no to the poll. Captain Ron, good morning, Captain Ron. Home in Orlando says no. I have got Black Pearl saying no. All right. Okay. Thank you, Cheryl Henry. 222-8255. That's our numbers directly into our studio. North Americans, toll-free number for you, 866-525-1099. Anywhere in the world or globe at 868-310-1021. Do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of the 7 babies at Port of Spain General Hospital? That's such a sad story. Huh? Gloria Gray, absolutely no. Thank you, Gloria. Wayne Joseph,
in Ontario, Canada. No. Thank you, Wayne. Okay.
And this laptop froze, so he's trying to reinitialize it.
Yeah, I could relate. Curtis from Grandy, where it's raining, Curtis, says no. Lester Craigwell. Okay, we're doing a poll, Lester Craigwell. Thank you. Do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of the 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital? Yes or no? Okay. You have, let's see how much time you have. Let me check my fancy clock. 3 minutes exactly to vote on our poll. All right.
Lester Stewart Young said they're on the trail of the owners, so we wait and see. Oh, sorry, Minister Young.
Yeah.
My bad.
But it was an investigative report that said they found the owners, and when they were in.
And Minister Young said they were on the trail of the owners. So I don't know which to believe.
Yeah, that trail. A trail. All right. Do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of the 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital? Touch my tones. 222-8255. North Americans like this caller, 866-525-1099. Good morning. Where are you calling me from?
Morning. I would say yes, because I expect the parents to win that class action lawsuit.
All right.
Well, anyone will be held accountable in that case is the state to pay money.
That's all.
So I'm not sure that means anyone will be held accountable. It means the state will have to pay out millions of dollars if the lawsuit is successful.
Yeah.
Guys, my apologies, but my screen froze, and that's never happened before. So yeah. I missed quite a bit of votes. I hope you all will write it.
No.
Well,
I'll
try to go back. I'll try to go
through
back.
Your screen, yeah. All right. I got Eve. Good morning, Eve, out in Sugar. Guanas. Eve says no. Thank you, Eve. Hector. No, as usual. All right, Hector. All right. Of course, our poll will stay up until tomorrow morning. We can vote on our mobile app, which you should have by now. On any platform, look for Power 102 Digital. And on our website at power102fm.com.
All right. I think I caught up.
Yeah, we had Curtis and Grandy saying no. We had Black Pearl saying no. Captain Ron saying no. And Eve saying no. I think you missed those. Those are on WhatsApp. I don't know if you got Brian from St. Joseph also saying no.
I got all the no's, but is there still only one? Nobody else called in with a yes, right? Because we've only had one yes.
All right. Mogain says hell no to the poll. Roland says no. Yeah. All right. Couple of seconds again till 7 when Evie walks in. For our major news, do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of the 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital?
Did you do what I told you to do, Wendell? Did it work?
Yes, I did. That's exactly what worked.
That's why it's working, Zena, you know. Press the button down for 10 seconds, hard restart, and she's come back up.
I've never had to do that.
You had a hard reset, them aged and mature devices.
Yeah, them old devices. Them old things.
That mature and age.
Them old things.
Sometimes.
Nasser Mohammed says no.
I first thought it was a problem with the program. I say something. What Steve do again?
It's just old. Yeah. I mean, press 2 buttons and some of them, you know.
But it's been a while since I used my laptop. I remember when I traveled, I don't carry it with me.
But evening with Zena, it'll be a while sometimes.
Gentlemen, Cascade St. Anne's says no. All right. So Evie is in. Mugin says good morning to you, Evie. Let's get in. Let's get into our major news. Avi is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Opposition wants answers to several questions relating to premature deaths of 7 babies at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Head of the Registered Nurses Association says that improper hygiene practices could have contributed to the unfortunate incident. Massi releases summary of investigation results, and the White House warns Israel the U.S. will not participate in any retaliatory strikes on Iran. Details in a moment. This is News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. The opposition is hoping that a probe is done into the deaths of 7 premature babies at the neonatal intensive care unit at the Port of Spain General Hospital, and that will be able to answer several questions it claims is critical. Member of Parliament Dr. Lakram Bodo at a news briefing on Sunday posed questions related to sanitization, sterilization, and staffing. The Northwest Regional Health Authority in a statement confirmed the deaths of the babies, saying that it was as a result of infections. Dr. Bodo says he's hoping the investigations will be conducted and will be able to provide the answer to concerns raised.
Is it that sterilizers are in short supply at the Northwest Regional Health Authority? Is it true that the linen and other materials that need to be sterilized sometimes have to be moved between the... Is it an issue of poor sanitation? Is it true that there was discovered a site of infection under some sink? I trust that the investigation that the minister promised will give the answers to these questions.
He also commented on various recommendations which were outlined in 2013 by the Maternity Services Review Committee, which had to do with staffing.
The recommendation was that the neonatal nurse to patient ratio at the NICU is recommended to be 1-to-1 for ventilated neonates, meaning those infants that have support of a respirator, 1-to-2 for high dependency neonates, and 1-to-4 for special care babies. I asked whether these recommendations have been implemented. This report is some 10 years old, and the question really is whether adequate resources, staffing and otherwise, are provided to the hardworking nurses and doctors.
Meanwhile, head of the Registered Nurses Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Eddie Stewart, says it is possible that the bacterial infections responsible for the baby's deaths could have easily been spread from medical staff to the babies or if the cots were too close together. Speaking this morning on the Power Breakfast Show, he said that while he does not have all of the information in the situation, it is possible that cross-contamination could have contributed to the issue. He also said if doctors were not practicing proper hygiene, this too could have also had a devastating effect on the spread of infection.
You having more than one nurse between babies, highly likely there, and if the cuts are too close together, you could end up with just brushing up against one cut. And you go to do something else and you brush up against another cut, and something simple as that could cross-contaminate. But then there's the larger possibility where the medical staff, the doctors, inserting the IV access into these babies, because they spoke about a blood-borne infection, and that is another area where the infection can be spread if the doctors are not washing their hands and not doing the needful. That is another higher likely chance of where this infection could be spread.
He disclosed that while a shortage of nursing staff could have been a factor, what is more likely a bigger factor is the way the doctors who attended to the babies conducted their duties.
The issue of shortage of nursing staff and the spacing of cuts is an internationally identified cause, a risk factor, but even a bigger risk factor is doctors inserting some of their any invasive device, whether it's the tracks to assist the babies to breathe, the ventilation, whether it's the IV access, whether it's the subclavian IV access, what have you. It is a high chance, a high possibility that the infection can be transferred in that manner.
The Northwest Regional Health Authority may be facing several lawsuits in relation to the deaths of at least 7 babies earlier this month. Freedom Law Chambers led Anand Ramlogan delivered the pre-action protocol letter to the NWRHA's Chief Executive Officer yesterday, representing the parents of the 7 deceased babies: Shania Raymond Adams, Natasha Samuel, Shaquille Harry, Danielle Samaru, Tennille Saunders, Jody Molino, and Sharice Moore Beckles. The 7 babies who died as a result of a bacterial outbreak at the Port of Spain General Hospital earlier this month are pursuing a lawsuit for medical negligence. The story about the deaths of the 7 babies broke earlier this week to a shocked population, since there had been no statement from the NWRHA at the time of the deaths. A release from the NWRHA earlier this week confirmed there were deaths of babies earlier this month, but did not specify the number of babies that had died. The pre-action protocol letter stated that while 7 babies have been exposed by the media, SC Ramlogan and Freedom Law Chambers is still in the process of assessing the true impact and scale of the tragedy, as several other parents have since contacted them with similar horror stories regarding their experience at the Port of Spain General Hospital and the negligent death of their babies. The attorneys also want the Ministry of Health to confirm total number of babies that have died at the Port of Spain General Hospital since January 1st this year. Massi Holdings Limited shared a summary of its findings following an investigation into claims made by former General Counsel Angelique Parasot-Potter. The company says the board reviewed the full report and has taken note of all the findings and accepted the recommendations and will act with urgency to implement the required changes. In the executive summary, the company said that the overwhelming majority of allegations contained in Mrs. Parasot-Potter's statement to Massi Holdings Limited, dated November 12, 2023, has not been made out. The evidence does not establish a forced exit or constructive dismissal in the respect of Mrs. Parasot-Potter. It also went on to say that the evidence established that in 2019, Massi decided to reorganize its operations in accordance with the portfolio model. Mrs. Parasot-Potter registered or resisted Massi's attempts to apply that model to Massi's legal department. Irreconcilable differences arose between them. Massi said those differences were a major factor in the deterioration of the employment relationship between Massi and Parasot-Potter, and following those differences, she voluntarily entered into negotiations on the terms of a separation package for her voluntary exit from the company. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Further afield, the White House warns Israel the United States will not participate in any retaliatory strikes on Iran. Senior administrative officials have said over 300 drones and missiles were fired at Israel overnight, which Iran said was in response to an April 1st strike on its consulate in Syria. Almost all weapons were shot down by Israeli, U.S., and allied forces before they reached their targets. Officials said President Joe Biden urged Israel to consider its response carefully. Israel says that its allies have intercepted the vast majority of more than 300 drones and missiles launched by Iran. It says there were a small number of hits on its territory, including at an IDF base in southern Israel, while one child has been injured. Israel's Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, has said the confrontation with Iran is not over yet. Iran said the attack achieved all its objectives and added that it would use greater force if Israel responded in kind. Iran's unprecedented retaliatory attack marks the first time it has targeted Israel directly from its own soil. Well, finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly sunny, slightly hazy and breezy conditions, despite 1 or 2 brisk showers. Mostly fair night with a light breeze and the odd shower after midnight. Look out for a forecast, a maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature at Piarco is 27 degrees Celsius. It is also 27 degrees Celsius at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, opposition wants answers to several questions relating to premature deaths of 7 babies. Head of the Registered Nurses Association says that improper hygiene practices could have contributed to the unfortunate incident. Massi releases summary of investigation results, and the White House warns Israel the United States will not participate in any retaliatory strikes on Iran. I'm Avril Sindelbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. There is more news coming up in detail at 12 noon and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Evie, for our major news. You can join her again come 8 o'clock this morning with our news brief, and then major news again at 12 o'clock, 12 noon with Sir Charles. Quickly, let's take a look at what's happening traffic-wise in San Fernando. Balacona Connector Road, your hotspot this morning. Heading to Marabella Roundabout, Taruba Link Road, and from there, from Taruba Link Road heading northbound, you've got traffic to Claxton Bay. Rivulet Road is beginning to build. Freeport to Chicagowanus, and Montrose Main Road is a bit heavy. And then from Charlieville towards the interchange, you've got some traffic. Leaving Chicagowanus, passing Chinchin Road to Ivy's Gardens, traffic, Kelly Village, St. Helena, County Roundabout to Q-Rep. You've got some Santa Rosa to O'Mara, Piaco to Orange Grove, and then lighter from there to UE, and then Q-Rep straight into Port of Spain. Lady Young Road from Mova Junction to the Lookout. Maraval from Mocha, Diego Martin. Yep. It's heavy. School is pretty much open. Well, most schools are pretty much open in its entirety today. All right. So let's go. Where's Wendell? You there, my friend?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mario Joseph says no to the poll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Mookie.
I got Mario.
Rena Boodoo Jennings. Whatever happened to the case with the newborn was slit from ear to ear during a C-section. Anthony Tinto, good morning. Boy Bedesi says yes. Let's check WhatsApp. I have Danrad saying no. And I don't know who this is, Roger Seawing. Good morning to you, Roger. Again, nice parrot. Roger is saying no to the poll. Randy Kelly says no.
Slick Money Group is also raising the issue in 2014 of the baby.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We will be chatting with Fuad Khan this morning later on. But right now we will be chatting with Wendell Fields.
Did we get Dinesh? Did we try to get Dinesh Rambali at all?
No. Wendell Fields and the father, Shannon, the father of the 4-year-old girl. We will chat with them coming up any minute now. I'm just waiting for Wendell to kick in. Oh, I wonder if Paul will let him in.
All right, let me give the results of the poll now, based on what I have here.
Yeah.
Our question was, do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of 7 babies at Port of Spain General Hospital? I have 31 people saying no, 2 saying yes. And I got Kerwin Duke's last vote there. Nope. 31 said no, and 2 said yes. All right. So we have some interviews lined up, but we really should try to get Dinesh Rambali to follow up on that press conference he had. We
had already booked. We had already booked. So
yeah, no problem. Do it for Wednesday now. Do it for Wednesday.
That'll give me enough time to try and get them.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be willing to talk.
Yeah. Oh, maybe tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. I'll see if we can get him in. But I mean, his sentiments where she should step down is on the lips of a lot of Trinbagonians.
Yeah.
As we head towards silly season. Wendell Fields, good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Morning, guys. I'm fine.
Wonderful. So now that I have you online, I am now going to try and get Shannon. So let me try and do that by the time.
All right.
Slick money grip. You like Baccarat. You go in based on looks. It don't work so, eh? Oh, dear. Oh, so we getting Wendell and the father at the same time?
Yeah, Wendell was on. Where did he go? He's there. He just took off his camera.
Took off his camera. He just took off his camera.
What?
All right, we are dealing with a story. Well, a lot of these stories are not, well, they're kind of new, but they're not brand new. But lots of interviews this morning. It's like money could like Baccarat, yes. Yes. All right. So we're holding on to get, what's the guy's name? Is he Lalit? Mr. Lalit?
Yeah, Shannon Lalit is the dad's name.
Shannon Lalit, all right. Okay. So we're holding on to get him on the phone. Okay. And Wendell, I know, has been doing excellent work. I follow Wendell all the time. Wendell, I read everything you write and I look at everything you broadcast. And I really am impressed with the work that you're doing and continue to do it, you know. It's not an easy task you're doing there. It's not easy.
The most I could say there, yes. It's really, I mean, with so much, I mean, that taking place. Just really hoping, I mean, we shouldn't need to wait for tragedy to have some of these discussions or get the ears of those who are in power to make the relevant changes. And that is what is always disturbing to me. There's always a greater level of concern from society. And I mean, if I should respectfully say it, a greater level of what I may subjectively deem as hypocrisy from I would say, our parliamentarians when these things happen. I'm not knocking anybody, but I have to be honest, because you can't only care when tragedy strikes and not care when in the interim you have advocacy groups lobbying for things to prevent the tragedy. So from my eyes, where I sit, I could only call it hypocritical. Not saying that anybody's a hypocrite per se, but for you to not take action or not see it relevant or not see it important before tragedy strikes and you have groups lobbying you to deal with things like parental alienation, which will now stop either parent, whether mother or father, from breaking all contact from the other parent for 2 and 3 years or even a year. I mean, any child that goes into disappearance with even their parent, biological parent, that nobody else has contacted that child beside the parent, and a small percentage of people, should be a troubling affair for the state. You understand? And I mean, to have things like this, the legislative suggestions that we've made since 2018, before joint select committees of parliament. I mean, you hear people talking about lobby and they need to lobby harder, but lobby to which level again? We've gone straight to the parliament. We've gone before a joint select committee. We have a joint select committee report. I can say that since this last incident has happened, I've reached out to the AG and he's responded and he expects, we had a meeting scheduled with him for almost 2 years now and it was postponed. And he's now agreed that in May's month, he's going to schedule that meeting. We've been waiting for that rescheduled date for almost 2 years. So, I mean, we are grateful for it still, but I'm just saying, in instances like this, and I'm not just saying that about this present regime, you know, it's a culture that I have seen take on under various governments. I have been on the Child Protection Task Force that was under the last Prime Minister's guard, Ms. Kamala Bissessa, which was actually created after the death of Kiana Cumberbatch. So we always take action after tragedy. I was a part of that task force that was then now. For years, there were persons lobbying, get the Children Authority going, get the Children Authority. Kiana was murdered and then, all right, form the task force. I was a part of it. Children Authority was rolled out after Kiana dying. And still, I mean, we're still always waiting for tragedy to make necessary action, or take necessary action.
Yeah. Rondell, if you could just adjust your camera a little bit. Yeah, you're cutting off your forehead there.
You're right.
You come forward, and let me see. You may have to adjust it up a little bit. I was trying to call the father, but for some odd reason, I can't.
Right.
I know you have spoken to him.
Yeah.
And after I spoke to you yesterday, I spoke to him.
Okay.
And apart from the obvious situation that he's in, he's dealing with another situation,
right,
which he's really, really upset about.
Right.
And I could not believe what I was hearing for a while. I will try him. I'll keep trying him until we get him. But I know you spoke to him.
Right.
Is that he lost all custody of seeing his daughter?
I think in Mr. Lalit's case, after speaking to him, I think he was misinformed, as in his chances or the opportunity of gaining custody. I think he was not informed correctly. He said when he went to the court, they told him that the only way he could bring a matter for access up to the court is if the mother brought him up before the court for maintenance and custody, that he wasn't given that he would not be able to start a matter without her bringing him up first. So I think in his issue, he was misinformed for whatever reason. Employees of the court will say that will never happen, but I have heard certain things of this nature happen. I have heard sometimes it's put someone who's on a new desk, so maybe it's a OJT, somebody who doesn't have the information and given information that they don't have the information for, or they're not legally trained to give. And he said based on that information, he was told that he have to wait for her to bring him up, so to speak. And he didn't act on that. But I could tell you sometimes what you go through, because he also gave an instance of him going to the house even before trying to go to court. And then because, I mean, even though there was no court order, it would mean that he has just as much rights to the child as she does. He didn't know that one, but going to her premises, I mean, you can't go on anybody's premises and demand anything. So she would call the police on him and they would remove him off the premises. So the other source of advice he got also is from the police. The police telling them that at the end of the day, he don't have rights to the child unless he goes to court, which is also false information. At that point in time, the only thing that would bar him or limit is his parental right or parental access to the child more than anything else legally was a court order, and there was no court order at that point in time. So I think Mr. Lalit's issue is that he was going on a lot of misinformation. I would not be skeptical of what he is saying, because I know that this point that we are seeing police officers that know a lot more now. We've put a lot of information out on our website, tfatt.com. We always encourage persons to go there. We have issue papers there that explains what is custody, explains what is care and control, explains what is joint custody. These things are very important. People use these words interchangeably, thinking they are the same thing for the same scenario as well. In other words, many people don't understand that if you are an unmarried couple, you cannot apply for joint custody because you're not married. What they allow you to do, you apply, one applies for custody, care and control, the other applies for access. But the the unmarried person who applies for access also needs to access their parental rights. Custody, in a sense, or joint custody, as in what people always asked for, is really both parties having that authority, that legal authority, to make influential decisions in the child's life, meaning school, meaning health, meaning religion, these kind of things. But you can have joint custody, which is given only to married men. Understand the differentiation? Only to married couples that are now separated, you will get joint custody. If you were never married, you apply, or even if you don't apply and you are given access by the court ordered you access, you apply for custody and you ordered access, you always ask that you obtain your parental rights so that you allow the same permissions as if you were getting joint custody. I just hope it's not too confusing for people, but that parameter is just dealing with the influence on the decision making of the child. The part when it comes to residence, meaning where the child resides, is care and control. And that is why we always ask, and that is why since the Joint Select Committee, we have suggested that legislation be drawn up officially for shared parenting, because shared parenting combines them. Shared parenting combines joint custody, which is the decision making, and joint care and control. So if you have shared parenting, you have both. So the child has dual residency, so to speak. 1 week by daddy, 1 week by mommy, or 2 weeks by mommy, 2 weeks by daddy. And also the parents have the power equally to make decisions in the child's life. That is why we ask for shared parenting to share. Morning.
What is the procedure for a father who feels that his child or children, whilst in the custody of the other parent, let me not put the father, let me put it in a neutral way. One parent has control and care for the child, and the other parent, through visitation, has information that their child may be in a dangerous situation, or another individual has been introduced into the home situation where their child is primarily staying. What is the procedure for that parent in terms of ensuring the safety of their child, if they feel that is the case, if they have evidence to support that sort of claim? Because this is one of the conversations that has come up with the recent scenario, and whether or not a father in the case of this scenario has a legal right to challenge the custody based on information he may get that his child may be put at danger or not in the safest of environments.
Of course he does. I mean, he could go before the court and he could have a variation of the current court order, access order, custody arrangement. If he has evidence, if he has the finance to do it, which is most times a challenge, to obtain a lawyer's services to go back the filing. If the person now is still in a mental state, you have to realize some men are traumatized after a 5-year case to not get custody. They're considering for a number of years. Just yesterday, I was talking to a father as well, who believes that his son is now being mentally abused by the mother. And he's considering if to go back, and to encourage him to go back to spend that money, not knowing if it will change the consequence. Sometimes the real issues that some of them face. Yes, I continue to encourage them to go back, but these are honestly some of the issues that they face. But to answer your question, yes, you can go back, but when you go back, sometimes it isn't dealt with immediately. Also, you have to wait for a hearing. If you have the money as well, and you can try to get.
I feel my child is in danger. I feel another person has been introduced into the home scenario, which is the other parent's right. You understand? Right. It's your domicile. But I feel the information I have is that, for example, I know a particular scenario where a colleague of mine does not have control and custody. And an individual has been introduced into the scenario, a partner. And he's saying that the child is telling, the child is 11 years old, that the individual is smoking marijuana in the household.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, it's based on how strong the evidence is. And that one not smoking marijuana, that's going to get put off for about 2, 3, 4 months investigated.
Even when a child is indicated to the police or the court that the child may be in danger or in an unsafe environment.
But that's the reality of it. You could go to the CPU. And I would always advise there to go to go there first, which is the child protection unit, the police. You go, you make the report there. They would say then they have to start the investigations. They have to then send a report to Trinidad Authority. Trinidad Authority would then have to make arrangements to come and visit the scenario. And then during that process as well, when that child told you that and you initiate this, the child must continue to live in that space, So the other parent now runs a greater risk that because the child has now informed you what penalty or penance the child is now going to face while the child is there. You've seen me highlight these instances where I've seen young girls allege sexual penetration by the parent, and they didn't want to place the young lady in the possession of the father. She is now. I don't even want to go into the matter too much, but it was a task. So she was in close proximity to the person she made the allegation to for a lengthy period of time. So long and short of the story, these things do happen, and that is why I still often, you would hear me complaining, Paul, about the Child Protection Unit, about the Children Authority, and I'm complaining about the state as well, because I can understand that the Child Protection Unit and the Children Authority may have resource problems. So I will complain that the state should give them the resources they need. But you would see me sometimes talking about the Child Protection Unit, sometimes with bias, sometimes gender bias, sometimes. So these departments that are sometimes set up to protect do have cultural challenges, do have financial challenges that can be addressed with training and can be addressed with finance in the right places as well. So it's as multifaceted as that. And I've been around and advocating time and time again. So to you, Paul, it might be, hey, let me make that report, and the child does. But anybody who knows is not going to be a fast and clear-cut scenario, and the other parent also is in consideration of, when I do this and trigger the act, there's a problem. And then the Children Authority side, in their defense, as he passed Mr. Hanif Benjamin, when he was the CEO there, they have a real problem when they use resources to go and investigate, and it's a false allegation that has been levied against them. So the determination of false and truth is another thing that causes them to waste time and waste resources. And that part is on the state. So I've shown you individually where we are all in society taking up some level of responsibility to have to be blamed for. So it's very, very challenging.
What's Mr. Elite doing?
Come again?
I came on a little late, so I don't know if it was asked, how is Mr. Elite doing? I can't imagine either parent understanding what your 4-year-old baby went through, given the autopsy report. And I mean, the initial report is horrendous enough with the decapitation, and then the autopsy indicated she was missing an eye and she had lacerations and head contusions, which means that that child was beaten, tortured, and then murdered. It's just, for a parent to have that in his or her mind is, I don't know, how is he doing?
Yeah, I mean, he's traumatized. I could tell from the way he speaks. I mean, he may not even realize he's traumatized by the things taking place. I've spoken to him over the weekend. I spoke to him Saturday as well, because so much is coming out into the media, and a lot of questions he's had is being asked and answered in the public space, and not even some of them not even answered, but other suggestions being made. He's even asked me about that. He's now considering to do a paternity test as well, because he doesn't know. So he's confused, I would say. I'm not saying that he is misguided or going in a misdirected direction, so to speak. But as you said, this is a traumatizing experience.
He's in the throes of extreme grief.
Correct. And this is something that I've seen happen. What I did is connecting with Mr. Selvon Reyes, who had a similar scenario happen to him about 11 or 12 years ago. And I've asked Selvon, since he's been post his trauma, to continue to work and speak to him. I often ask Selvon to do that. Selvon Reyes has been a trooper. I asked him to do the same thing with Kevin Cumberbatch when Kiana was found in that way, because though he goes through his struggles as well, he's been there a lot longer than these new guys who are going through this trauma. And he's very instrumental when it comes to the rehabilitation process of getting your life back on track after losing your children in such a tragic way. And he lost 2 children, not 1. And his wife, who wasn't even divorced him yet, her ex-lover killed her as well. So he even grieves for her as well.
Yeah, he's going through a rough time.
fortunate scenario. And
He is
to
going
see
through
other
a rough.
children.
Yeah, it is. And you see, what startled me is that someone pasted a picture of what he said and what Mr. Lalit said and combined it and shared it on social media. Both things saying the very same thing 12 years after. I believe if my children had been given to me, or I had meaningful access of custody, they would still be alive. And in Mr. Selvon Rare's case, unlike Mr. Lalit's, who didn't really get to the court, Selvon's case got to the court. Selvon did everything he had. Selvon went to the social workers. Selvon had them come. Selvon went to the court. Selvon said that he had an issue with the children and he felt they weren't safe in that place. And the judge, he always recites exactly what that judge told him because it's stuck in his brain. The judge tells him, look at you, because you're a little heavier set. Look at you. You don't look like you could take care of yourself. Should I remove these children from their mother's care and put them in yours? And it was shortly after mother and children were murdered. And those children's lives could have been saved.
Wendell, let me ask you this question. I can't get it out of my head. Are there any women advocating on behalf of fathers the way that there are men advocating on behalf of mothers? I don't know of any, correct me if I'm wrong, but are there any women publicly advocating on behalf of men as there are men advocating on behalf of women?
I know there's a percentage of, as I say, we have a lot of support on the ground from women because, we have a lot of mothers and grandmothers. Well, grandmothers more so, aunts, all these women who don't get to see their nieces, their nephews, their grandchildren because they are affiliated with the paternal part of the family. So there's a great number of women that support us. But as you said, that public voice, there's only like one, and they're not really public, but they would help us with research and a number of things. Ms. Zakia Wadada, for sure, from the Emancipation Support Committee, has always been very vocal. She's one of the reasons we even was able to conduct that search to get it was through the Emancipation Support Committee receiving the funding on our behalf for us to do that European Union project where that research was done. She just had seen me on television and got in contact with me, and she was kind of somebody who kind of guided me when it came to certain parts of running an organization of this sort. So for sure, if I was to mention one person who has vocally been there as much as she can, if I went on show, she came as well. Definitely Ms. Zakia Wadada. Not many at all, but
maybe you need to make that call because in my humble opinion, and I have no statistics to prove it, people listen more to women than sometimes they listen to men. So maybe you need to make a public call for more influential women to come on board and assist with this because we can't be talking about this every time a child is murdered, a child is slaughtered. And in these circumstances, it just sickening. This thing sickens me, man.
Correct. I have continuously made that call, but for some reason, it's a very emotive topic, and I think many women believe that if they advocate genuinely on this perspective, it's like they're pulling down women folk or pulling down the grandeur of single motherhood. So I would see many women say XYZ and many women agree, and many women who I know to be influential, who in certain spaces that are influential, but they wouldn't come forward. No matter how you ask them, I ask them publicly, I ask them privately. Many of them don't. Many of them also know that they're due to some of their affiliations. They can't. And they've mentioned that to me. So, the thing is, guys, it should not matter more. And we have men supposed to have that constitutional right as well. Man, woman, we're supposed to have the same right. And if we are now in a position where we need to have a woman say something for men, for people to care, then we're in a horrendous problem. So I think it is, as I say, it's all about culture, it's all about the culture changing, and it must start from here. Look at the parliament, there's a lot of men there. Look at boards in so many boards across the country. There are men present, and things like paternity leave. That's something that I am, as public knowledge, that I am on the telecommunication board. That's something that I had to make sure to fight that the employees there could get, because it benefits not only men. Most of the things we asked for, if not everything, doesn't only benefit men. It benefits society. It benefits women as well, like paternity leave. You have men paying national insurance, the same increments that women pay. And why don't they get to access paternity leave in a meaningful way? 2 to 3 days is the standard. But why? They're making the same contributions. Even their wives, some who are unemployed, benefit from the contributions they make. Yet they themselves cannot benefit from it. They get 2 to 3 days only. And then we come, and this is what I see, as I said, hypocritical, when I hear statements, as I have heard thus far already, from President, Prime Minister, other persons, about men stepping up. When you within the state who is in control of a lot of these things that could show and assist and support the step up of men are doing nothing. And you've heard me advocate for years. I have written you letters for years, and you've chosen to do nothing but come on a podium and tell men to step up when you yourself have done nothing to support that step.
And that's the point I'm making. We blaze away, rightfully so, at men all the time when they are wrong. We do it all the time. But nobody says anything on the opposite end. Nobody says anything to women. Hey, all you need to step up. All you need to stop being this way. Stop being that way. Stop victimizing children. Stop, nobody's saying it.
I know, and let me tell you why. Because there was a public statement that was made by a public figure about the choice that some women need to make. And you would realize even the international media had to call me about that, the stream, and because it became a Caribbean campaign of male hate, because that statement was made. But when you really think or look at it, that is an advice for all persons. We've been told by our parents to choose your friends wisely as well, and sound advice. And even more so for a single parent. I tell single fathers that as well. You are that, when you are now seeking a relationship as a single parent, you have to have a higher level of responsibility, held at a higher level of accountability, because you are bringing a person into your life as a lover, and that person into the life of your children as a parent. 2 roles are going to be brought in to do. You must be more cautious. You must choose wisely, because from what we are seeing, some of the choices being made, the children are paying the consequence for your choice, and that is unfair. So it is crazy for me to think that there must not be any level of accountability when a child has done nothing more than be a part of a family, trusted the decision of their parents, and lost their life.
And have a right to safety. Running away all the time. We had booked Mr. Lilly also, but clearly he's going through some trauma, so we have to understand.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach him here.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendell, and keep up the good work, my brother.
Yeah, keep up the good
Thank
work.
you.
Take care.
All the best.
Mr. Wendell Fields from the Fathers Association. We're jumping straight into our next interview, are we, gentlemen?
I believe we are. Dr. Khan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I can't seem to get this camera working.
There's an X across it. There's a line through your camera. I don't know why.
I don't know why it's not coming on
before.
Yeah.
I've never. Anyway, but we have you. We're hearing you, and
All
we
right.
appreciate it.
All right. So good morning to Dr. Fuad Khan. How are you?
Good. How things?
Not bad at all. Let's get straight into it.
Well,
You're also someone I follow, Dr. Khan, in terms of your videos and so on, and your blogs and whatnot. And I know that you would have made several comments lately on the politics. I don't know if this interview restricted to health, or we talking about his other.
Talking both.
Okay. Whatever you want.
Yeah, on Dinesh Rambali's contribution recently, you would have made a certain call, based on your history, within the UNC, for them to either sit in the back as independent UNC members or resign their seats. You want to clarify that for us?
What do you think about it? All the guys are doing, well, the others have called for internal elections to be done. and automatically they have been labeled attacking the leader and agents of the PNM. Dinesh Rambali called for the leader to step down because after so many elections, the leader basically has the strategy of a loser where general elections are concerned. And he said that to move forward, we need to have a different system of leadership. Automatically, he was attacked and called the PNM, etc., the usual thing. So what I said to them, the United National Congress elections, internal elections that you're calling for, unless you have a serious set of registrants or membership, you are going to go into the same system that I went into and others went into in the last couple of years, which was a manipulated election that made it possible only for the leader to be accepted with a star team. You are going to get a very bad list, very late, with hardly any connection to name, addresses, telephone numbers, or email address. It's not going to be the same list that the leader uses, because the leader uses a different list that is hidden in a vault and only comes out for special people during that election. So you're going to basically, unless you have a system in place, lose again. You're going to be considered losers, and next thing you know, you're out. Because once you make any utterances in the UNC against leadership or against systems, you are branded a troublemaker and you are thrown out when the elections are called. In order to maintain your political life, you have to either make a decision to resign and fight the seat like Jack Warner did in 2013 and won, or next you could do is go to the bank bench as an independent UNC away from the whip, so you can say yes to legislation, no to legislation, balance the power, and determine how the country will move forward, so the general population will see that you mean business, what you're doing. In fact, you'll be like the independent senator in the lower house, determining exactly how legislations are done, rather than being told all the time to say no to legislation that may solve crime, anti-bail act, etc. Because once you are under the whip, you have to follow it. If you're off the whip, you could change.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm telling them.
So that will be your recommendation for the 5 people, because I think it's about 5 of them.
Yes, because right now they're on the way out. So you might as well make a difference for the country.
Interesting.
What do you think? Good morning, Dr. Khan. Thanks for joining us once again. You know, this issue of the UNC leadership has come up again and again. When was the last internal election in the UNC?
I think it was 2 years ago when I went up against Ms. Prasad Bisesa for the leadership role of the party. And I kept saying to them, Ms. Prasad Bisesa cannot ride 2 horses and do it effectively. She could develop the parliament as the opposition leader, but you need somebody to develop the party as the party leader or something, so we could have a strong party groups, strong systems in place, and have it like the American system, where when an election is called internally, it will be free and fair, and it'll be like the American system where the party calls the meeting and the candidates go on stage and answer questions based on their portfolio, and we get the best if possible.
Now, Mr. Rambali, Dr. Khan, before we move across to the health issues, Mr. Rambali is associated also with the SDMS, where we would have heard certain comments by the deceased leader, Satmaraj, concerning the Hindu vote. And we would also have been hearing certain comments by the current leader, who is Satmaraj's son, especially against Dr. Munilal. How do you think this will affect the UNC in the upcoming election?
It's going to affect the UNC, because the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha group is a very strong group, lots of members and support. And in other words, they have a very strong following in the United National Congress support membership. I always say that people have indicated that the Muslim fraction, Kamal sold this to the population, sorry, that this Muslim fraction is most important in certain areas. I'm from Barataria, San Juan, and I could tell you the Hindu fraction is more important and stronger. And at the end of the day, if the Mahasabha is not on the UNC side, it could pose problems.
If we could move now to the health sector and the
Sure.
top news of the 7 babies dying in NICU in the first week of the country, and what your thoughts are. And you are a past Minister of Health, and we spoke to Edie Stewart earlier on from the Registered Nurses Association, and an investigation has been commenced. Do you think there should be an independent investigation, and what do you think may have gone wrong for this sort of tragedy to happen?
Sometimes in the neonatal intensive care units, they sometimes will have infections because the neonatals' immune systems are not developed like a baby that has been 36 to 38 weeks. A lot of those babies in the neonatal intensive care unit are usually preterm, and babies 24 weeks and around that 26 weeks. So the immune systems are not developed. And there have been outbreaks of different organisms in worldwide neonatal intensive care units. And sometimes it may be a baby that is brought in from externally, or it could be a adult that came to visit and did not put on the proper mask properly, because you get a lot of the organisms from your nose, from your eyes, from your hands, etc. If you didn't gong up properly, if you didn't do proper...
Who's responsible for making sure those protocols are instituted rigidly?
Everything is in an intensive care area, and who they are responsible are the people on the outside, the nurses, and who allow the entry of those individuals, swabbing the baby, these things are protocols that are followed, all the time. For it to have 7 baby dead, it obviously is something like which could be termed a pandemic in the intensive care. And one infection got through, and a lot of the babies, because they're there, you may have been exposed to that Klebsiella or whatever it was. They have immune suppression. Now,
is it likely that they would all become symptomatic at the same time if a foreign agent
it can have what they call an outbreak. It's like an outbreak. Rather than one person alone, it could be an outbreak. And it's an outbreak, an infective outbreak. You have to find the source of the infection. Now, how do you do that? You have to now go and swab all over, plate it, carry it to microbiology, and see what organisms are coming up on the swabs, whether it's the same organisms that was on the babies. So it's a process that takes place. Now, you have to look at every factor based on, one, whether the infection came in and from where, and also was the treatment to the babies adequately of an international reasonable standard. All those things are going to take time, because the investigation takes a lot of work, and it has to be done immediately. And sometimes you have to shut down the neonatal intensive care unit and re-sterilize, everything, reassess. Even the staff have to be swabbed and checked to see which one may be a carrier of that organism. So it's not something that it could be done immediately. However, the 7 babies that died causes a serious medical uproar because of what happened. And
would you consider this an extraordinary event?
What's that?
Would you consider this an extraordinary event, 7 babies dying in 5 days?
It is extraordinary. It's what you have to find out exactly what is happening now. It's not, no, you get the impression that it's 7 babies of term. There's no. You have to remember it's 7 babies who are put in an intensive care unit because of a preterm nature. And in another country that does not have an intensive care unit, all those babies where they would have died because they did not have an intensive care area. Now we are lucky to have neonatal intensive care units. In fact, when I was minister, I wanted to put one, a 3-story structure in Mount Hope next to the Women's Hospital. There are plans for that to be international standard. So it'd be away from everything else. It'll have its own area. However, in the hospitals that they are there now, they are part and parcel of everything moving, everything around. So you run the risk of high infections. If you have an area that is separate somewhere else, that not anybody can go to, you could manage it properly.
No, Dr. Khan, do you think, based on the incident thus far and the preliminary report that we've gotten about the deaths of these 7 babies, justifies a call for the resignation of the Minister of Health, as has been made by the Dr. Lakram Bodo of the opposition?
Dr. who?
Dr. Lakram Bodo of the opposition made that call.
Well, he has to say that because at the end of the day, the Minister of Health is not responsible for that. And to call for a resignation on something, after the investigation, if he does resign and you find that he has no input into it or whatever it is, I personally think that's a bit premature.
What should we learn from this, or what should the healthcare sector learn from this most?
Could you repeat that, please, Paul?
What should the healthcare sector learn most from this tragedy?
They have to find out what is occurring. We need a new neonatal separate intensive care system. We also need to be stringent, more so, in areas that have barrier nursing and also quarantine. You cannot fall down on your quarantine. And you have to make sure that rather than bringing a baby from outside that has been delivered outside in an outside nursing home, and I do understand a couple of babies were delivered in private nursing homes that came to the neonatal intensive care unit, that they have to be in a separate room, swabbed and everything else, made sure that they're okay, and then transferred to the neonatal intensive care unit. In other words, you must have a pre-room, and then you have the real intensive care unit, because then you'll be saving who are inside the intensive care unit.
So there's an isolation for a period of time until
it should be like that, because you don't know what is coming in with. Yeah. But the thing about it, when somebody comes from the outside the private sector, you get a phone call saying, we have a baby here in distress and you want immediate intensive care treatment. Bam, bam, bam. And because of the emotional aspect of it, it happens like that.
So, and what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Khan? Because very often we've heard, not only with neonates and babies, but with patients in general, they are private healthcare institutions. You're very well aware of that. And patients who get into distress are quickly decanted to the general state hospitals so that the mortality is not on the books of the private healthcare sector, in addition to them wanting a higher level of care.
What happens in the private healthcare system is that you have to pay for stuff. And a lot of people go there initially, but you cannot determine what problems will occur. So when the problems do occur, the cost will occur too, and the costs will go up. Now, the private healthcare system has HDU and ICU facilities, but you're paying close to about $30,000 to $40,000 a day or more. So imagine 5-6 days there, what happens? Some people may not have insurance to cover it. So these are the people that are basically the doctors in the private sector call someone in the public sector, and is a doctor-to-doctor transfer into the ICU to save the patient's life. It's not a matter of...
But the private healthcare institutions have ICUs for neonates?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Khan,
the cost factor is high.
Yeah. I want to end on, do you think anyone will be held accountable for the deaths of these 7 babies? That would have been our poll this morning. Do you think anyone will be held accountable?
You have to, that's a premature question. I can't say that because in investigations, okay, it's like when I was minister and they had a lot of problems in the health sector, maternal problems, etc., etc. We found out after investigation, there was not much people to blame or faults to occur. However, the sensationalization of the media and the whole thing after that, before that, created a need for something to be done. And if you come out after the media is finished with you and say, well, we didn't find anything wrong in the protocols, etc., how the baby dead then? You may have a problem with the movement of something that is nobody's real fault that could be assessed. But 7 babies dying is an emotional thing. And to say that faultlessness or blame, we have to wait and see what the investigation will uncover, and if possible, if anything at all, how it came about. Because that is obviously a neonatal intensive care unit with preterm babies who an infection creeped in somehow. In the old days, that happened a lot because
should the investigation be independent as opposed to being initiated by the
the thing about it, the investigations can be independent, and the minister should call and give it to an independent body that create a system where senior people can be put on and investigate the notes, investigate the system. If I were the minister, I would do that, because at the end of the day, no matter what he does, they will say that he covered it up. Get a team of people and say, okay, these are independent thinkers. I mean, I could even say that Dr. I don't know if she's still available, Dr. Pet Manning, it could be one of them, neonatal intensive care people, and also a legal person. So you have a structure, and hand them the notes and say, go to the hospital, do what you have to do, and come up with a report.
Dr. Khan, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate it as usual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khan. All the best to you.
Take care. Sorry about the camera. I don't know what, I'll have to fix it.
All right.
No problem. That's all right.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God.
You all be safe out there. Have a great day.
Take care.
All right. So we head towards our 8 o'clock news brief. Of course, EB will be running in